Early June, I flew to Brussels, the capital city of Belgium, to join my sister for a little trip. And here I was, in the Grand Place, admiring the Gothic architecture. But Brussels was not our main destination. My sister being a theme park lover, we decided to spend a few days in Efteling, a fantasy-themed amusement park based in the Netherlands. Before heading to the park, we spent one day in Belgium and saw a lot of treats such as waffles, macarons, candied chestnuts, chocolates, and quirky art. That was fun, but what came next was even more incredible. Efteling was about a 2.5-hour journey from Brussels, and we couldn't have missed the huge and unique entrance of the park. It is one of the oldest major theme parks in the world, and it's surrounded by nature. It felt like the park was built in the middle of an enchanted forest. There were lakes, gardens, woods, ducks, and many different birds around the attractions. It really looked like a fairy tale. What makes Efteling special is that it draws inspiration from European fairy tales, folklore, myth, and legends. Every corner of the park is an immersive experience. Even the restaurants look like they are from another world. If you are a fan of fantasy landscapes and stories, then you'll probably like this little tour of my favorite places and attractions of the park. We came across scenes of popular tales. Some of them were unknown to me, while others were instantly recognizable. I really enjoyed the House of the Witch in Hansel and Gretel, with its colorful sweets. You could even smell the flavors of candies. Efteling uses a lot of different scents in its attractions. It makes the experience even more immersive, and I love that. We also saw beautiful and unique house designs which were the keepers of tales and stories. We found quirky characters with a touch of humor. And I have to say, Efteling doesn't disappoint when it comes to imagination. Sometimes the characters were a bit creepy, but to be honest, I didn't mind because it added something special to the park. I believe creepy can be fun. My sister and I continued our journey into the woods before heading to our first attraction, Symbolica, a family-friendly dark ride in a magical palace. What I like about this ride was that you could choose 3 different paths as you were queuing, each path leading to 3 different rooms. That's why we visited this attraction 3 times. Of course, we couldn't leave the park without trying the snail ride at least once, which was so cute. If you're afraid of big roller coasters, that one was made for you. We also visited the lands of the fairies, which, like Symbolica, didn't disappoint with its gorgeous magical realms and forests. The pagoda was also very interesting as it brought us up in the sky to have a wonderful view on the entire park. Here you can see the lake with the boats sailing peacefully. Yes, we did all the small and relaxing attractions first. Don't worry, there are also big roller coasters at Efteling. I didn't try all of them as I'm not a huge fan of big sensations, but my sister did, without much hesitation. And on the boat we were, watching people walking across the park, while ducks and swans were sailing peacefully, unbothered by the many visitors. The Dutch mill and house were so cute. They really reminded me that we were no longer in Belgium but in the Netherlands. I'll let you appreciate the relaxing sounds of the birds, of the water, background music and attractions. That's the kind of meditation that my Gemini mind enjoys very much. Here's the ride Bara 1898, the most impressive roller coaster of Efteling with its thrilling vertical drop. I didn't do it, unlike my sister, but she told me that it was great, a tiny bit too short, but definitely worth it, especially if you are in the front. What I like about Efteling is that every attraction has its own story. Bara 1898 tells the story of Gustav Hochmuth, excuse my Dutch pronunciation, whose pride and greed led him to search for gold in mines guarded by spirits called the White Woman. Those spirits warned the visitors not to go into the mine to dig the gold. Unfortunately for the visitors, they provoked the anger of the spirits, and they fell into the void. Now, let's talk about a ride I did experience, the famous Vliegende Hollander, translating the Flying Dutchman. On this ride, we boarded a boat on the harbor town of the wealthy Captain Willem van der Deggen. We can visit the harbor both inside and outside the attraction. It reminded me a bit of Pirates of the Caribbean in Disneyland, except that this ride was a lot more intense. I really loved the harbor with the lion statues. It was very beautifully made, and the music was probably one of my favorite theme songs. As for the story, just like the Baron of the previous ride, the captain was a greedy man who sailed on an Easter Sunday to search for treasures despite religious prohibition and a stormy sea. As a punishment, the captain and his crew were cursed to wander on the sea for eternity. Visitors passed through his house and the docks, hearing stories about the captain who never returned. I have to say, it was one of my favorite attractions, despite the stress I felt when we reached the first drop. You should have seen me clinging on my sister's jacket. That was something. The first part of the attraction was in the dark, as we boarded our ship and traveled through the fog among the remains of the ghost ship of the captain. Then we reached the first drop outdoors, and the second one that was the most intense drop for me, before finally touching water again. Visiting the harbor was awesome, but entering a haunted abbey was even more fun, especially when you know that this place was cursed by a creature often disguised as an innocent black cat, but who is in fact a malevolent supernatural creature. The story begins with a peculiar conductor named Joseph Charlatan. One day, he brought his orchestra to the ruined abbey for an international music competition. As the musicians performed Danse Macabre, a famous piece of music composed by the French composer Camille Saint-Saëns, something terrible happened. At the climax of the piece, the entire orchestra disappeared. According to local legend, they were consumed by the ancient evil disguised as a black cat. As we approached the abbey, we could hear the cute sound of the cat, followed by some roars that suggested that the cat was not that cute after all. In front of the damaged abbey, we could find instruments and flyers with the pictures of the poor musicians forever trapped in the ruins. It was said that their souls never found peace, as they were forced to play the same piece of music every single night over and over again. But the story didn't end up here, as the descendants of the conductor Joseph Charlatan seem to have established a profitable business by luring visitors into the ruined abbey, making the legend of its curse quite famous. Now, be aware that if you set foot in the chapel, you may encounter the ghost of the conductor and his orchestra. Danse Macabre is probably my favorite attraction because I love the gothic atmosphere, and the attraction itself is very unique as you're moving in circle in the abbey, going up and down as the music plays faster and faster. The shop after the ride was beautifully decorated, and I wanted to buy most of the items. Unfortunately, in the plane with my bag, that would not be possible to carry them. Or maybe I already own a lot of props and don't need more. The only thing I found disappointing was that the book based on the story of the Lost Orchestra had not been translated in English and was only available in Dutch. I really wanted to read the story. Our final stop is at the brand new Grand Hotel, which opened last year. The outside was stunning, and it's located right at the entrance of the park. There were some honeysuckles, which smelled delicious, and I found the outdoor lights very chic. The Grand Hotel is very luxurious and elegant. It has a spa, a cafe, and 2 restaurants. Look how happy my sister is. So many keys were suspended by the ceiling and all around the reception. And I don't know what this man was doing with a big jar of water, but I found it very whimsical. Unfortunately, my sister and I hadn't stayed at this hotel. We chose the cheaper option by staying at the entry price hotel of the park. However, we did treat ourselves with a magical dinner at the Mystique Restaurant, one of the 2 restaurants of the Grand Hotel, which offers a unique dining experience. It was so beautiful to see the park through those massive windows, and we were very happy to be inside as the stormy weather started to take over. It was a real experience as we didn't really know what we were about to eat. First, we had to choose 3 amuse-bouches by selecting 3 stones, each stone representing a dish. We just had a short description of the amuse-bouche, so we had to guess what it could be. We were served 2 extra little amuse-bouches made of tomatoes, while we were cautiously selecting our 3 stones. Bread and butter were also served, and the butter, which had a lavender flavor, was made into a real candle. It was so epic. Followed by a tomato crisp butterfly on top of a sweet and sour basil ice cream. And here was the first amuse-bouche we chose with the stones, a sweet and sour bite made of cream and white chocolate. That was a little bit disappointing because it was mayo sauce with bread, but that mushroom and ham brew was gorgeous. Then for the main dish, we had a choice between the meat, the fish, or the vegetarian dish. And we chose the fish with its asparagus, and that was very, very good. Another 2 amuse-bouche made of meringue. And then the dessert. I was hoping to get some chocolate, but instead we had a sort of strawberry tart with its very fresh ice cream. But it was very good, so I didn't really miss the chocolate in the end. That was the end of our trip to Efteling. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe it has inspired you to visit this unique fantasy-themed park. See you soon, and remember, keep creating and keep dreaming.